I just saw Q like 5 minutes ago. He'll probably join.
Right. Hey, everybody. So this is episode number 19 of the Open Heart Collective. And my guest tonight is a really good friend, amazing human being. And I'll let him explain the rest. So, Mike, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Mike Casavant, and I don't know. I've got a kind of an interesting story, I suppose. Currently, I'm working with a lot of small to medium-sized brands, developing their direct-to-consumer sales with a company that I'm affiliated now working with called Margot Media. They're just one of the top digital marketing companies I've worked with in the past, and I just kind of one of those deals where we're able to take a small, medium-sized company and get them mass exposure very quickly. And then on the backside of that, I typically am able to help channel a lot of the verticals that I've developed over the last 15, 20 years of being alive. From my music connections, I was a professional musician for half my 20s, most of my 20s, touring all over the world playing music. So now what's happening is we're taking a lot of these younger brands and introducing them to festivals like Coachella and all these major events that they can become sponsors of to get mass exposure. So so on the very low key side, that's kind of the majority of stuff we're focused on right now.
Right. Awesome. Well, for those of you guys who have never heard of the Open Heart Collective before, have no idea what this is about, maybe, and this is your very first time seeing anything. This is a podcast, live video, audio podcast that was started in March. The purpose of this being to create or to develop a safe place for people to have open, raw dialogue about mental health. Mike being in the music business and an entrepreneur, we understand that mental health is something we don't talk about, which is really odd considering the culture that we're in right now, where we're talking about always be on the hustle, offense 24/7, work, do all that, all those buzzwords that everybody hears across social media. But the one thing that we're continually not on the offense about, or not talking about, or not being open and honest about, is our own mental health. So what better way to do it than to have an hour-long conversation with an amazing human being and really get to the heart of and the mind of a human being's mental health. So that being said, I mean, you gave a lot just in that first minute and a half. So I'm really curious to know a little bit more about your story. I mean, we've been friends for a long time now. I mean, I've been excited to have you be a part of the Open Heart Collective since the beginning.
Yep.
But I think your story will help a lot of people because I know it's helped me.
Sure. So, yeah. I mean, gosh, where do I even start? So I would say, I think, if we're talking about mental health and wellness, it's something that I've battled with my whole life. I've always had depression issues. It's always been something that I've struggled with maintaining until probably, I would say, the last probably 5 years or so. I think I really understood and got a much better grasp on how to handle that. So, typically in the past, if we talk about depression specifically for me, I would get to a point where I would start to succeed at certain points in my life, and I would do everything in my power to burn it down. Like I would literally self-sabotage everything, whether it was relationships, business, like anything. I would start to get traction. I'd see a lot of positive ROI in my time and in my venture or relationship, and then I'd be like, all right, so to take relationships, I would cheat on my girlfriend. I would do everything in my power to sabotage that relationship, even though I knew it was perfect and great, right? Or perfect in retrospect, or it was just a very healthy relationship. So the funny thing was for me, I never had, and I don't believe in work-life balance. It's not something I don't believe in.
We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yeah,
keep going.
But I do believe in integration. So that's for me. It's integrating all parts of my life to fit within the confines of really where I want to go, what I'm trying to achieve, and finding a way to make sure that all the people in my life that I want to be in it are fit within that. So I integrate everything that I need and want to make my life, balance, if you will. So, So achieving health and wellness in retrospect of just the mental capacity, I never really, yeah, man, it's like I never really understood like why I would get to certain points, and then I get to this like great place, and everyone's like, wow, like you're doing awesome, that girlfriend's perfect for you, and then I'd be like, great, and literally within days I'd be like, done, over. I'm gonna do everything in my power to just destroy all of this. So which is so weird. It's like the weirdest concept, and I think I never understood why I did it, and I was always at this point where I wanted to grow. I like read every self-help book you can imagine, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And then I realized what was wrong was like I was swallowing my feelings. Period. I would never talk about things. I would never openly have this discussion as we are now. I just say everything's great. I paint this really beautiful picture that like, man, my life is amazing, and yet silently screaming, right? So I think eventually I figured out that there's other people in my life, that yourself included, that have had struggles in the past, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, like I can openly talk about this shit, and it's totally okay. Like it's like I never felt weird about it. I think I'm a pretty open person for the most part, or I thought I was, until I got really open and really started talking about my feelings, and now realize that like the stigma, if you will, based around especially men talking about emotions of any sort, it's not, it just doesn't exist. And I think that's where I felt like I didn't have anyone I could go to specifically to talk about these things. And so when I finally figured out like what that looked like, who the people I can reach out to, I never felt like I was alone. And I always felt like, wow, like I know if I was, and we've had this discussion, I know if I was in the shitter, I could go, right, we need to chat, or like, I'll drive out to meet up with you in Illinois, like whatever. I'll just get myself out of the situation and go. But I would have never done that in the past, ever. And so I think getting a grasp of that and realizing there are people that I can rely on, and relying on myself is always how I've been my whole life. So putting that onto someone else is still to this day, it can be uncomfortable for me, but I know that like if I'm starting to slip up in any way, shape or form, I know like this is what I have to do to get the hell out of this and make sure this doesn't become like a 6-month ordeal, and I wake up 6 months later like my life is burning apart, everything's destroyed. Now it's rebuild the pieces again. So yeah.
I mean, and we've had these discussions multiple times, from me talking to you about it, you talking to me about it. I mean, we've really confided in each other, even though we really, I mean, in all honesty, don't really know each other all that well. But but it's amazing what it does when you have the ability to create connection, regardless of whether or not you're in immediate proximity. So, I mean, we're a state away. Oftentimes, we're coasts away from each other. But it's amazing what this tool or on social media can do. I mean, we met on the Shaper app, and it's kind of all started from there. But like, the one thing about, you were talking about, you don't really have work-life balance. It's about integration. So it's about integrating the play part of your life with the work part of your life, because I mean the work is important. I mean, to a lot of people, we probably work too much, right? But
right, and not to cut you off, man, but like to that point, if people look at my schedule, and my friends do, that like they have a normal, well, when I say normalized, more normal schedule and more normal life, 9 to 5, and that's Monday through Friday, and like and they crush it, they're happy as hell. I am not built to be okay with that life, and I've never been. This has been, I mean, you could ask, like going back to when I first started playing music or getting into like playing guitar, it was like Michael's in his room for 9 hours a day, having the time of my life, figuring this thing out. So everyone else looks at that, they're like, dude, you need to go out, you need to go do stuff. But I knew like my focus was, I want to get to be the best songwriter and the best guitar player I could possibly be. And no one's going to practice for me. Right. And so I think that same sort of terminology and that same thought process has gone through my whole life with me. So when I think about working my ass off, it's like, yeah, like I probably put in at this point still like 100+ hours a week, but it's also one of those things where it doesn't feel like, I still feel like I could work more, but I've also figured out like when I'm getting to the edge, if you will, I'm like, oh, dude, I need to back off. I literally shut down my social. I turn everything off, and I'll be off the grid for like sometimes 2 days. And you see me do that, dude. Like I'll just go like black, and it's not because I don't want to talk to my friends or talk to you guys. It's like I know when my headspace gets too far to the edge, and when I'm like pushing things too much, I can, retreat and be okay and come back out of it. So, but I look at my schedule and I'm always like, people like my family's always like, you're out of your fucking mind. How do you do all of these things that you do and try to and still maintain and still wake up at 5 a.m. and are happy? I'm like, because everything I do is a choice, right? Everything I do is a choice that like no one's holding a gun to my head to tell me to work this hard. No one's telling me I should talk to and have 25 things going on at once. I do, and I choose that. And so when I choose those things, I've chosen that person that I'm working with makes me happy, and I wake up every day and know that I need to do something with this. So everything I do is a byproduct of what I want.
Right. I think that's really important, the point that you just hit on. And I've thought about how to phrase that in my own world, because I'm a lot like you. I have those commitments and those relationships and those things that and the contracts and the artists on the label and all these things going on. Yet I love it.
Yeah.
I'm weird like that. I'm a lot like you. I love the work. That's why I do it so much.
Totally.
And I think that's the important part about integration and balance, is it's not a lot of work if you love what you do. Like today, I spent the entire day determining or going through 6 months of budgets for one of these organizations that I work in, of all marketing expenses. That was the day,
Yep.
other than a couple of meetings. I loved it.
Right.
And now I've got, after this, we're diving into social media planning. We're diving into artist meetings and stuff like that. Again, I love
speaking
it.
of Rob Cressy, what up, dude? You guys need to connect. You and Rob need to connect. He's probably one of the most positive people I've ever met outside of you. Yeah, Rob, connect with Phil. He's great. And Rob Gilfeather, what up, dude? Amazing people.
But yeah, I mean, and so now that we've got a few people in watching this, I want to again remind you, this content is being recorded. Instagram, you'll only stick around for 24 hours. But don't worry, because this video will live forever on Facebook, which we're also broadcasting live on right now. So Facebook, you're a little bit quiet Tuesday night. No love lost there. I know you guys will catch it on the replay. And then on Sunday, this will be dropped into YouTube and also into into the Open Art Collective podcast, which you can find in the link in my profile. So the other mission for the Open Heart Collective, or the mission for the Open Heart Collective, for those of you who aren't aware of it, is, I know my story might not always resonate with somebody, but your story will help or resonate with someone else. So we're looking to create a community of individuals all focused around developing a safe place for people to seek help, to share what they're going through, to just maybe let it out. Because sometimes when you're going through something like what Mike and I were talking about a couple minutes ago, you just simply need somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And when you get that person that listens, they don't even have to say anything. They just have to listen. And you get that out of you, you feel better. Even if it's for only 12 minutes, you feel better. And having that safe place to do it, that's what the Open Art Collective is. It's that safe place for you to share your story, for you to help others, for you to vent, get it out. Like if you're having a shit day, like have a shit day, but don't dwell in it. So allow yourself to feel it and move through. That being said, you talked a little bit about your proclivity to working all the time because you love what you do because that's how you integrate one side of your life to the other. But you also, when you were telling the initial part of your story, you went a little dark with the fact that you went into self-sabotage a lot.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to hear exactly what that means. Like, why would you do? Let's get into the why of what you did in that moment, and then what you're doing to get yourself out of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say, let's see, I could go back to like probably 2015. That was a really fucking bad year for me. Like I feel like I blinked and I woke up and it was December. Like it was like I woke up, I started January 1, blinked and woke up from like the haze that I was in December, like Christmas, and it was like it was awful. Um, Around that time, I was living with my ex-girlfriend. We were supposed to move. That was the plan. We were going to move to California together, and like we both like got out of our apartments. Our leases ended, so we moved into my parents' house for like 4 months to kind of save cash, and then that was the big plan. After 2 months of being at my parents' house, it was like we just the relationship like fell apart. So then living with her, for another extended few months, it was just like, what am I doing? Like it was awful. Every day I'd show up to the house and she'd be there with the dog, and like I love the dog, and like it was just this whole weird dynamic. So when after she finally moved and left to California, I remember this like it was yesterday, dude. So she was up in New Hampshire. That's where she was originally from with her parents or whatever, with her mom. I was up there for the night before she moved, her and her sister, and then literally like I'm following them. There was like this split in the road where it just they went right and I went straight, and it was this whole like very kind of like how can I explain it? Like I felt like that was the day that like everything just separated from me, and like this one person in my life that I had for you know um almost 5 years at that point went away. I went this other way, and then that was just like that was it, and it was like this really
Right.
horrible, awful feeling. And so then like that didn't like I guess going back to like that time in my life, it, I didn't understand how to. I couldn't really dissect like I couldn't separate. So like, okay, I have a broken heart. Sure, I'm like really bummed out, but then I couldn't be like, all right, I'm gonna show up for work, like show up to my job. I had my gym, I had my gym business, all these different things going on, and I just all that stuff I just didn't care about anymore. Like I just like stopped caring a shit about everything. So like I kind of just that year I literally threw my hands up in the air like I don't fucking care what happens. And like it was so like things that I could have done better, like yeah, have a conversation with someone about it as we are now, like and actually go out and like seek some guidance from people that could have helped me around that time. I didn't. All my friends were like, dude, what is going on with you? Like you're off. Like everything just changed, and I let it all come to a really bad place. My business was failing. I let it fail, and it was doing incredible by that point. So like everything that was good and healthy, I just let go to shit. And like like I said, I woke up. I felt like December, like, and because that's actually when we connected again, my ex and I around Christmas, and it was like, where have I been? Like, what have I
Right.
been doing? Um, and then it was kind of like when I saw her around Christmas time, I think mentally I realized like, holy shit, I've given someone this much power over my life, and she wasn't even in the fucking state. And that's when I like everything that sunk into my head, like you can never let that happen. Like that can never ever happen again.
Right.
So like I made this mental shift going into the next year in 2016, and it was just like I wanted to surround myself with the right people. I pushed my like everything I was doing around that time was like to better my life, and I became very vocal about everything, things I would like normally not speak up about. I became extremely vocal. So that's when I started seeing all this weight of the world that I felt like I was holding on my shoulders very much started to sort of shift. And I was in a position
Hmm.
where yeah, I just had more control of me, and I stopped giving the wrong people control over my life.
As he takes a sip of his coffee.
I know.
But
Starbucks.
it's really interesting that you phrase it around control, because I think that as an entrepreneur is an interesting thing, because we're so focused around those things that we can control, how much we can grow, this, that, and the other thing, that we tend to give up control in other areas of our life and allow others to come in, other circumstances, situations, people to come in and really have the potential to wreak havoc
Sure.
with your mind. Because I mean, you controlling so much, or working to control so much, build a business, build businesses, build these relationships all the time, you're not really caring about what happens in that aspect. So when you're talking, I mean, when you bring in relationships, that's a whole nother factor, because a relationship is a balance of happiness, right?
Yep.
Like, you're balancing the amount of happiness that you bring the other person with the amount of happiness that you yourself are generating in your world. And when those scales are tipped, it gets weird. And I mean, I've experienced that tipping of the scales in relationships, like where I feel like I'm giving a lot and it's not being reciprocated back, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And that leads to, again, the self-sabotage, because you're like, oh, fuck it, I'm doing too much already. Why am I getting the shit end of the stick? Or like, fuck it, I'm not doing enough. And you're like, maybe I've not done enough for so long that you can't get past it. So therefore,
Right.
either way, whether it's doing good or whether it's doing bad, you're
Yeah.
sabotaging yourself because you don't know anything else. Now, would you agree with this, that your ability of self-sabotage was about your desire to have that control in your own life again?
Uh,
Right? Because you sabotage a
yeah.
situation just
Sure.
because you think
Yeah.
maybe some other people, other circumstances are going on, that you're
Mhm.
like, no, whether it's like active thought
Yep.
process or like
Yeah.
more of a subconscious thing, it's a really interesting thought process when you put it that way. Like, maybe we
Yeah.
self-sabotage ourselves, or self-sabotage as a form of gaining control.
Yeah, man. I mean, because, well, right. And I think when you're in the heart of it and you don't realize like that's what you're seeking, because it's like if you told me that when I was, like that year, I would have been like, I don't want like fucking control of what, like, what I mean? I wouldn't even been able to process it.
Right.
Whereas, now with my life and all the decisions and things I have in my life and that I purposely put in my life, um, there's no like if I'm even around a person that has like just shitty energy, I'm already like, oh, I'm gone, and I'm just like unapologetic about it because I don't want to. Yeah, man. I mean, it's like I just don't want to put myself in positions, and I don't have to. That's the beautiful thing. Like
Right.
I don't have to. Like I don't. If someone doesn't like me because I don't want to be around them, it's because they have shitty energy and it's gonna fuck up my flow. See ya, dude. Like I'm good. Like I'm all set. I just don't care. So I think like no, but it is. But I do agree that like when you are in control, and you have as much control over yourself as much as possible, like that is there's no other better feeling than that because everything in your life now is there because you want it to be, not because it
Right.
has to be. And I think working for myself for fucking almost 10 years now, like when I left music in 2000 2010 was my last gig in what the hell? Oh, that was in England. That's right. Wow, that's crazy. Actually, it was like this time, like 10 years, like this time to 2010. I think it was like
That was the
2 days.
Acacia strain you were with, right? Then, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did a festival called Ghost Fest, and that was yeah, dude, that's right. We played at Leeds University. It was insane. It was awesome. Such a cool show. But when I left that and I went into the fitness industry, it was like I just I was ready for a change and I was ready for something else. But I started to realize even back then, like I started making really good decisions based off of like my gut instinct. And I think that's something you have to pay. Like when you're not, well, coming back to the control aspect, when you're not in control, right? You lose out on the now of things that are right in front of you that you forget are in front of you, and you don't even realize that like it's an arm's reach away. So I look back at things, you know, around that time, and I was so discombobulated, and I was emotionally, physically, mentally, everything was all over the place. So I look back now and realize that I had all the answers. I already had them. I already had all the opportunities. I had all the things I could have capitalized on, and I didn't give a fuck. The second I changed my mindset and thought process to go, wait a minute, I'm in control of everything that's happening in my life right now, and I took complete ownership of it all. Then I'm like, I can't blame anyone but the person that's staring back at me in the fucking mirror every day. So when I stopped blaming other people, took full ownership of my own life, all of a sudden then it's like, wow, like I just got this great deal. Wow, this new client just came. Oh my God, like all these things started piling in because I capitalize on every opportunity I see that maybe no one else is seeing yet. And when I jump on it, I go for it, I sprint, get it, and then keep building.
Right. And that's one of the things that I so honestly admire about you, man, because it's you're just constant perseverance regardless. Like a shitty circumstance happens, a bad client, a bad business deal, a bad relationship. You're just like on. Like
Yeah,
there's no amount of looking back. There's no amount of what happens if this. There's no amount of that, and that's what I so admire about you. And I'm working towards in my own world because I know
yeah,
that I mean self awareness has been huge even for me. And if I'm not actively pursuing what drives me to feel happy and complete, I'm doing something wrong. Which is
yeah,
why I put so much time into this content series because while it's not about me and it's about everybody else, I get so much fulfillment and I don't want to say joy out of it because sometimes the conversations are really dark or really hard, but I get that. I don't want to say validation because it's not validation either. I think you know what I'm talking about, but
yeah,
it's that feeling like, okay, you're putting something out there that isn't about you, that's about the community, that's about trying to leave the world a better place than when you started in it. And
sure.
that's the mission, at least my personal one.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you said that too, because I was just talking to, I mean, yeah, I was talking to one of my best friends, Max. He plays in the bass. He plays bass for a band called the Black Dahlia Murder, and you know, I've
Love that band,
known
by the way.
him since I was they're so fucking good. They're so amazing.
Absolutely.
I've known him since I was about gosh 19 or 20. So I mean, a long time. And you know, we've toured all over the world together. We've you know done. He's just he's been like my ride or die since day one. Like he's one of the best dudes on the planet. And but we were just talking about how it's interesting because you mentioned like my inadaptability to be able to just not fucking care when like you know everything's burning around me, and I'm kind of like, hey, this is awesome. Let's figure out how to get you know. I It's just one of those things where like I always said if my house is gonna burn down, it's gonna be by my own damn hands, no one else's. And so when I made that distinction in my life, like I'm gonna go out and work for myself. Um, I let go of all the doubt. I let go of all the fears. I let go of everything that could potentially, you know, harm me to realize that I'm gonna go do something I don't even know how the fuck to do. I just know that if I keep working for somebody else, I might as well just swallow a fucking bullet because that was suicide for me. Like literally, like it it cripples my being as an individual because I know, and again, it's not me being cocky. I just know my mental capacity to help businesses and help you know
Right.
brands grow is so large that when I'm contained to a fucking cubicle or some ungodly way of you know working, I, it's like I can't do it. I physically get sick even just at the thought. And again,
Right.
some people like in people that don't have that, that's okay. And like I don't I mean like I'm not saying that's bad in the world. For me, it's just that if I'm in that position, I'm not living to my fullest potential.
Right.
I'm living in this very narrow scope, and I need this. I need the whole world to be able to paint constantly. But when I talked about with Max just recently, it's interesting, and I don't know if you've experienced this too. Like I would say since October until now, creating on LinkedIn has changed my life in every fucking way possible, like across the board. But I've connected with in these last, this last year or so, I've connected with you, I've connected with Q, I've connected with all these really incredible people that know Mike Casavant present day, not Mike Casavant 15 years ago. And all my
Right.
friends back home, right? It's like, it's weird because I wasn't, how can I explain this? Like, dude, I used to drink my face off. I was a fucking lunatic. I mean, I was just out of my mind, right? But on the same token, that stigma of who I was will never leave me. And they can't see me as the person I am today, as like, the successful business person. Like, nothing I
Right.
do, it's almost like a laugh. It's almost like, I feel like I'm like ridiculed constantly for it. But I realize like it's because I'm constantly trying and I'm constantly pushing the envelope and I'm constantly, doing things to better my life in the way that I want them to. And I'm never content with just, even if I was a lawyer, dude, I'd be like, what else can I fucking do? Like, I need to do more than just what I'm capable of. Like, if someone says this is my bar, I'm going like, okay, well, that's where I'm. I don't set bars for myself, and I just go as far as wide as I can. And even if I don't know, like, even if I don't know 100% the clear path to get there, I know I'm sprinting towards something great. And as long as I'm doing the right things on a daily basis to keep enhancing that, that's all that fucking matters. I don't believe in business plans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in missions. I don't fucking care. I just want to go do it and, have fun. That's my motto in life, dude. I just want to have fun.
Well, I mean, you know my mission. I mean, my mission in life is to do cool things with cool people and add as much value as I can along the way. I mean,
Yeah.
you hit it on the head. I mean, for me, even it's. I mean, I can't sum it up any better than how you just went through it. But that's one of those things that I've been avidly trying to go for myself. And I mean, I still live in the town that I grew up in. So I still get
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, well, you're just that kid, or you're just the guy that started the record label. You can't run a creative agency. Like, you don't know how to build a business. You're barely making money now. I
Right.
get that.
Sure.
But it's like what they fail to realize is that every business is built differently.
Yeah.
Every business is going to have ups and downs. Every business is going to die inevitably. And I have outlasted so many others that have fucking died.
Yeah, dude. Totally.
And but I get that same stigma. Thankfully, you're separated from it. I live in it.
Yeah. And I think there was when I decided to move from Massachusetts to Milwaukee, again, it's one of those places that not everyone would want to move to. So I typically was just telling people I was moving to Chicago. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, and that was like, that was okay, but Milwaukee wasn't. But then, moving here is like, I decided a month in advance that I was going to move. Like, I woke up on August 2016. It was September, yeah, August 26th, 2016. And my business partner Kelly lives out here, and we were talking about some other stuff. And I said, you know what? I should just move to fucking Milwaukee. And she's like, yeah, that'd be cool. And a month to the date, I packed a U-Haul, attached my car and fucking drove here. And like, that's how I am, dude. Like, I'm very, very, very strategic with my moves, even though it looks
Right.
like I'm a fucking chaos mess because
Uh-huh.
I am. But I'm very, very, very strategic with what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Even if it looks like I don't, I'm very, very strategic with it. And there's certain decisions in my life where it's that initial gut instinct. I think about it for maybe a millisecond. I go, yep, that's it, we're going. And then I just fucking go. Other times I can be
Right.
like, this doesn't feel right yet. I need to sit in this for the next, 7 months. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, this is right. Let's go do it. So
Right.
that's one of those things too, where I feel like my pain threshold for the unknown and the unknown variables and circumstance is so high. I remember when I met with Mike, when I started investing in Morgan Stanley, my reps were like, so basically, if you lost 100 grand this month, how upset would you be? And I was like, well, I'd kick a hole through the fucking wall. And then I go, all right, what's next? Like I just because it's like I'm already like on to the next thing. Like I
Right.
can't stress about it that hard because I just don't care. And I mean, granted, I care, yes, but the upside of it is, well, what else can I be doing? And maybe from this negative, I'm like, shit, maybe something else is going to come from this that I wouldn't have even had access to if I didn't lose 100,000. So my mind is,
Right.
I'm extremely optimistic. You know what I mean? In most
Mhm.
everything I do, I don't think I'm ever going to like if I'm like, oh, this would be the best opportunity because I'm like, there's all these great angles and things like I can approach with it. But on the same token, I'm still very strategic and smart with my decisions. It's just I get excited like a schoolgirl, fucking, it's just like over everything. It's,
Right. And I want to speak to that a little bit because I think people, unless they're actively involved in a circumstance or a situation, don't see strategy right away.
yeah,
Like I took a full-time contract 3 weeks ago,
yeah,
but this full-time contract puts me within 15 minutes from home, and I'm still
yeah,
actively pursuing everything else that I'm doing. So nothing changed. A little
yeah,
bit of time allocation, but other than that, but that differential in time allocation has afforded me the opportunity to turn around and invest more into what I'm doing from a
sure,
financial and a time perspective.
yeah,
So it's to other people like, oh, you took a full-time gig, like that means you're not building anything else anymore. I'm like, no, 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 exactly the opposite. I'm building more now than I ever was before.
totally. I
So
mean, look, dude, yeah, no, but your full time gig is again, it's providing you the security that you need for the time being until you can have everything else set up to be where you need to
right.
be. It's like, yeah, so I mean, it's a much different scenario when you've got a lot of different circumstances than other people, right? Like I don't have kids, and I don't think I'm ever going to have them. It's never been something I really wanted,
You can
but it's
borrow
also
mine anytime.
I know, right? I know. I have my niece and nephew; they're great, but it's one of those things where, like, I've sort of set my life up in a way that I can come and go. Everything I do is very much like, yeah, it's based around making sure that I just, can do everything I want to do 100% of the time. And it sounds
Right.
selfish, but that's just how I am.
Well, and I love what I do. And I think that's the biggest thing too. Like you have to love what you do 100% of the time. If you don't love it, find a way to make yourself love it or find something else.
Yeah,
Because your
totally,
happiness is 100% on you guys. Absolutely.
100%.
So we got a little bit more time left. So when you were going through those dark times, what did you do to move past them? What was your tool to get through it? Because I think everybody's tool is a little bit different. Everybody's life is different. Their stories are different. But what was your tool, or what was that one thing that you always went back to that helped get you through?
So I'd probably say writing for sure. That's always been a huge passion of mine. So creative writing, poetry, those are two things I absolutely love. I think when I started to realize, yeah, like, my destiny is in my own hands and everything that I reap is what I sow. Even if I don't reap it, doesn't fucking matter. So I think it comes back to, I realized that for me, I have to like, that tool is really communicating my issues, my feelings to the right people. Because like I said, going back to the story of like, I have a ton of people in my life that I love that will always be there, but I can tell them about 20% of my life,
Right.
right? And then people like yourself and like a lot of my LinkedIn family that I've just kind of just blossomed over the last year. I can have the deepest, most intellectual conversations with them that I couldn't with people that I've known for almost 20 years, which is fucking
Right.
appalling. In all honesty, it sucks. But on the same token, that like where everyone that I'm connected with now, where we're all at in our lives, like it's out there, it's on a trajectory to something. And I think that's
Right.
the difference of a lot of other people in my life that like they are at different points in their life and they're happy with those things and this is all great. But on the same token, I look at things where I'm like, I need to be around the right minds to fulfill the desires and direction that I'm going to in my life that balance that and that add to it, not take away from it. So if you call me and go, dude, I just closed a deal for X amount, I'm like your biggest cheerleader. And like, I know if
Right.
I could say it to you, you'd be like, fuck, dude, this is amazing. But then in the back of
Well,
my
and then
mind,
I'm like, how
well,
can I get
yeah,
in?
well, that's what I'm saying, right? But that's how I am though too, because I'm going, well, wait, like the best thing to do the best way I can position myself in this life is that everyone around me somehow I'm going to affect and help grow as well. So it's like if I make a
That's
connection
legacy,
with
though, brother.
right, and I go, okay, great, like truth be told, and this is all brand new to me, there's a connection right now that I'm working on that's they work with the Oakland Raiders. That's legit. And I'm going, holy fuck, there's about 25 people in my life that I can pull together to work on this one thing. And everyone's gonna make their money, everyone's gonna be happy as shit. And then literally 6 months from now, we can all be on a fucking boat in Cabo just going nuts and having a blast. Like that's where my mind goes. And that's why I think I get so excited, is because it's not me by myself anymore. It's me in like an entourage of amazing people that I can call upon for certain things. And that's the difference in my life.
Right. And that's honestly, that's why I've loved social media. Like we get social gets a bad rap, a lot of negative shit, but this is the beautiful side of social media. Not only can we link together, build businesses and create opportunities for each other, but
Mm-hmm.
the biggest and most important thing is that we can have these types of conversations. And
Yeah.
Mike and I have never met face to face.
Right. Which is crazy.
Hey,
I
we
know.
can create impact and have a positive influence in people's life, regardless of proximity, regardless of, I mean, they could be doing something else entirely different with their life, but they see something in what we do, in the content that we put out, in the relationships that we're developing, that allows them to attribute some level of value to their life and make their life better. That's why I do social media.
Right.
Pure and simple.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this
So,
content series. Like, it's all about everybody else. Like, it's about how many conversations can we document, how many hour long video sessions can we do that allow people to make their life better, or at least just get some
yeah.
shit off their chest, which in turn
Yeah.
makes their life better. So it's interesting, the time and space that we're in, and I'm so honored and so stoked that you're able to join me tonight. And what I want to know what your words of wisdom for everybody who is either watching this, has watched this live. By the way, if you've watched this live, thank you very much. If you're wanting to catch the full version in the replay, it'll be on, again, Instagram for the next 24 hours, but will also be available on Facebook and YouTube and all that. Facebook tonight, YouTube, and Instagram at the end of the week. So what are those words of wisdom you have for people who are engaging in this content?
Yeah, man. I mean, well, a couple of things. One, I would say
You're
is,
paused on Instagram, by the way.
oh, I am. My phone might
Oh,
be
you
dying.
left.
Oh,
Well,
weird.
Instagram, thank you anyways. But you're to get the rest of this, you're gonna have to watch the rest of the video on
Yeah.
Facebook. So bye bye
Sorry,
Instagram.
dude. Yeah, my phone just died. My bad.
You're good.
That
You're
was
good.
crazy.
Well,
No, so like,
it's really entertaining because when we did this with TJ Reeves a couple weeks
mhm.
ago, his phone literally overheated. Like, his phone was getting heat warnings, and then his computer died. And it was funny because when his computer froze, his face was like really angry face, like looking at this, and it was just stuck like that. But
That's
anyways,
awesome.
keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say words of wisdom, man, for anyone that paid attention or liked what we talked about today. I would just say, like, you know, don't. Again, it's a lot easier to talk about it now because I was able to figure out how to, dig through the trenches and figure out how to, not get myself ever to be in a position of that in my life. But when people are going through it, the last thing they want to do is do anything that's going to be good for them, right? It's like
Right.
I'm the first one to tell you, I am all in when it comes to my happiness, but I'm also all in So if I'm like, you know what, I want to be the most depressed fucking piece of shit on the planet, I'm gonna go do that, and I'm gonna win all day, and I'm gonna be the most depressed human being ever. So, well, that's why I wrote so many friggin' bum out songs, dude. But
Right.
no, but I mean, I think people that are in a position in their life where they're either really stuck and they feel like, man, I don't know how to get on, or I don't know what to do, or they feel like that pressure of like, I've got kids, I've got a mortgage, but they're unfulfilled. Don't continue your life being unfulfilled. Figure out how you can find the right people to connect with. I think from my perspective, that LinkedIn has opened up, not even just business life for me, but also some incredible relationships. I mean, Shaper was a great relationship, like find for us, and I think just figuring out what are your hobbies. Maybe you're into, I don't know, like maybe you're into video games. And there's Twitch. There's all these things that you can jump on, right? So I
Right.
think figuring out what that medium is for you that makes sense and
Or
finding
maybe it is
people.
even Medium as a
Dude,
medium.
totally. Yeah. Which I love. Medium's awesome. Medium's one of the best platforms. So I think figuring out like how you're comfortable talking about very personal things, right?
Right.
Especially as men, I think once actually here's a total sidebar conversation, but this is again coming back to the sort of words of wisdom and things I've found and searched and used that have helped. A really incredible guy who's next Navy SEAL named Garrett J. White put out a really great program called The Warrior's Way. That's his whole thing. And he has this book called The Warrior Book. And it's all about his life's struggles of going through depression, suicidal. He was an alcoholic, almost lost his marriage, and how he was able to pull himself through the trenches in that and figure out how to really build the success of all aspects of his life. So
Right.
a friend of mine this week, literally like 2 days ago, reached out to me and said, dude, I am struggling with a buddy of mine that is married. He's supposed to have a kid with his wife. His wife reached out to me. He's an extremely bad alcoholic. And I'm like, wow, that sucks, dude. So we started talking about what type of personality he is and all these different things that, I felt like he's a really strong business person. He's doing $400,000 plus by himself a year, like crushing it,
Right.
right? So I'm like, if you send him to Alcoholics Anonymous, he'll leave after the first 10 minutes. And I've been through them and I went
Right.
through with friends and everything else. So seeing all
I've been
that,
through
knowing,
Al-Anon, which is very similar.
yeah, totally right. So you get it. So I said, you need to get him this book, but do it with him. Go through each chapter and do that with him. And initially he was like, no, he won't be into it. I forwarded him the link. I told him all about the guy, Garrett, his whole story. He went through the whole site. He goes, dude, this is fucking amazing. I know, I'm telling you. Like, if I had that book fucking 5 years ago, 60, 10 years, whatever, like, I can honestly tell you that none of the things that I fell into in my life would have ever happened. And that's the honest truth. And so,
Right.
because it's not just a book that you're reading, it's literally, I'm reading this to go implement it the second I finish that chapter or the second I
Right.
finish that page. So I think for any males that are listening to this, I feel like that's a book that every person should read, but get one for yourself and get one for your best friend that you both can do it together, because that's the power of that conversation. Each
Right.
week you check in together. Hey, what do you think of chapter one? Take your notes, talk about where you are in your life, and now you're both building towards something great. And
What's
because I
this book
think
called
numbers
again?
are, yeah, the Warrior Book, Garrett J.
Okay.
White. Absolutely phenomenal. So on the practical side, for sure, that's something I would recommend everyone to get. And then just on personal side, I would just say don't feel like, God, just again, everyone's always like, man, you're so optimistic and happy and whatever, but that took a lot of fucking work, and it takes a lot of work to maintain that, right?
Absolutely, it does.
And
Every single
but
fucking day.
yeah, but I always say, I go, but it's very easy, right? It's a very easy thing to do when all of the decisions and all the people and all the things I do in my life are a byproduct of what the fuck I actually want in my life. So when you have that
Right.
much control, I'm not listening to my boss going, "Where are you?" or hey, why you showed up? Why are you here at 12 o'clock and not? It's like I have none of that. So all of the bullshit that a lot of people have to deal with, I don't have to make those decisions. I don't have to deal with that stuff because I built my life in a way that I set out. I always risk everything. That's just how I am. And security is never something I chase. I think it's a
Right.
myth. For me, it's always just let's focus on the thing. Right. So again, having security isn't the thing I strive for. Happiness and just having fun. Those are the things I strive for. So I think if you're not having fun in your life at this point, at any age, stop everything, unplug. That's another book people should read, Unplugged by Brian McKenzie. Fucking brilliant book. But literally unplug everything, jump in your car, go sit by the ocean. It's one of my favorite things to do in the world. Just if you have a body of water near you, just go sit and just be with your thoughts and actually listen. Because that's the thing people don't realize. When you can sit by yourself with no distractions, no notifications, no pings, no fucking social, no anything, no kids, no whatever. You can sit down and go, what is it? What's happening with me? And you can have that conversation.
That one step further. So that is absolutely epic, and if you can do that, great. But what is real, true? I don't want to say happiness, but true. And bliss isn't the right word, but balance is when you have that person who will sit by that body of water with you, and completely, and it's a give and take. It's a left and it's a right. It's a jab and it's a hook. If you can, regardless of whether that's whether that's an interpersonal relationship, a working relationship, whatever it is, it's that I don't want to say ride or die mentality, but it's that person that is not offended when you're open, but again, in return, you're not offended when they're open, and there's personal growth and development that happens from there.
Yeah, and again, talking about things. Excuse me. The theme of just not doing things alone. I think that's absolutely accurate, 100%. And I think staying on that notion to like how my personal operating system is always let me get through all this bullshit that's going on, decipher through it, and then go, okay, great, now I can actually figure out how to communicate this appropriately to the person that I want to be able to, right? Then we can sit down. Now it's all right, here's what's been going on with me, this is why. So I think, yeah, man, I agree 1,000%. If you could have that person, whether it's relationship or friend or business partner or whatever, and you guys can have that conversation, it's the most invigorating thing you can do for yourself.
Right, because then you let it out, right? If there's, whether good or bad, because it could be all good things and you just don't know how to process it.
Yeah.
Or it could be a lot of negative shit, that fighting with a spouse, kids getting in trouble, like whatever. But if you're able to work through that, I mean, obviously working through it by yourself first is most important.
Sure.
But then having the ability to effectively communicate what's happening is huge. And that's the thing that, I mean, honestly, I've struggled with. I mean, we talked about that.
We talked about that,
and it's like, I'm feeling all of these things, but then it's like, wait a second. Is this a perception based on prior circumstances, or is this actually happening? And do I need to pay attention to it, or do I need to get my own mind right?
Yeah, totally.
And that's been huge for me. Absolutely huge.
That's amazing.
But we're getting ready to wrap it up, my brother. So one of the things that I always want to do is, I mean, obviously, even though this is not really about the business or any shameless plugs or anything like that, I do want the people to know where they can connect with you. What's the best platform? Where are you at, to where if somebody were to reach out and say, hey, Mike, like, I really got connected to this. I want to chat about what I've gone through with this, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if we talk about my social platforms, I think LinkedIn's about 80% of my time at this point.
We still need to talk about Instagram, but we'll get there
totally.
offline.
I mean, LinkedIn's my about 80%. But I'm on, I would say, actually probably 60% LinkedIn, 30% Instagram, 10% Facebook.
Okay.
Handle probably on LinkedIn, handle on Instagram, Mike underscore Casavant underscore, I believe it is. Shit, actually, I don't
And
know.
I'll put all the links in down below.
Okay,
So.
cool. Yeah, I'll forward them over to you. But yeah, I would say LinkedIn for sure, definitely my main spot. But yeah, after numerous conversations with you and Quentin and other people, I'm just trying to diversify my platforms. And
Right.
now with like the new, and at this point with a lot of the new branding and development that we're doing for brands, like my whole vibe is going to start changing and you know, kind of appropriately around what we're doing for the businesses.
Right.
So yeah, it's good.
Right.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. Awesome, brother. So to everybody who has watched this, a massive amount of thanks, or if you're listening to this, thank you as well, because I know like you have other things that you could be spending an hour of your life doing, but I'm really truly honored that you continue to listen to this content. And actually, as of us recording this right now or broadcasting this live right now, we reached over 200 streams on the audio form of the podcast, which I know to a lot of people is like, I get that in a day. To me, in this subject matter, that's a milestone. So to everybody who's continuing to listen to it, a massive amount of thanks for all the support that we've been getting. It means the world. But honestly, if you are facing something that you're not sure how to deal with, or you're struggling, please reach out. I am a resource, and I'm sure Mike will be a resource to offer up his time to even if it's just like I said, even if it's just to listen. But also, there are thousands of amazing resources out there. I'm actually working with a former guest, Rowan Bridler, was on episode 8, I believe, on creating a unified resource for all things mental health, both here in the US as well as in the UK. So stay tuned for that. We'll be releasing that in the next couple of weeks. It's a lot of work pulling together all the varying resources and getting them in one platform so that you guys can one place to reference that is all things mental health. And in the meantime, just reach out. Let's talk, because I mean that's the first step. I don't want my personal mission with this. I don't want to continue to wake up and read about the Chester Benningtons, Scott Hutchinsons, and Chris Cornells of the world, or anything along those lines. I want us to create this movement around actually talking about what's going on with us in our mental health. So the only way that we can actually do this is to start fucking talking. So that being said, all of my guests so far and Mike as well, thank you, because to get together, our voices are louder than we are alone. So that being said, how I end every single piece of content that I've been putting out lately, the following 3-4 things: be happy, have fun, and hustle hard. But remember, there's no amount of hustle that can bring you happiness or bring you fun. And you got to build in some time to breathe along the way. So thank you. And we'll be back on Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time with our guest, Angela Davis. Really excited about this one. In the meantime, have a good one, everybody.